You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
I completely deleted my Facebook and Instagram, and I had like Tinder and stuff, and I deleted everything I had. No one knew that I had my gun. No one knew that I had written a suicide note. I don't think anyone was aware of any of that going on, and that I was having thoughts of not wanting to kind of live anymore. But I don't think anyone knew the extent of kind of the situation that I was in.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you. Justin, welcome to the break. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Excellent. I'm really excited to talk to you and to bring your story to our audience of career breakers and people who are trying to do difficult things, because I think it's inspiring. And that word break, I tell people all the time, like it can mean a lot of different things. And this show uses it in the context of purposeful transformation, as in how do you break your path to do something else. But obviously, some people have breaks where they literally break. They hit a rock bottom moment. And those break moments can be an enormous catalyst to positive change. And I feel like your story embodies that. So this conversation could get intense for some people. Just warning that off the top of the bat. But I think there's a lot of hidden gems and hidden lessons and wisdom here to learn from. So, Justin, we're going to start right at I think the big moment, talking about your story, which is December 19th, 2020. As you've written before, you drove out to the mountains with a suicide note and a gun, the suicide note that you wrote to your son. You put a pistol to your head. You got a text message from, I believe, your brother-in-law. Yep. What was that? What did that text message say? And how did that change your mindset in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, the whole context behind the text message was essentially just it was just telling me you were being selfish. And at the time, I don't think anyone really knew what I was going through at the time. Like I didn't text everyone and was like, I'm going to go kill myself, or I'm going to go do this or that. I was actually texting my wife, who was kind of on like a little Christmas vacation with her family at the time. And I was texting her back and forth, and I was just like, this was after I really hit rock bottom, and I started making changes. I started getting like drugs and alcohol out of my life and stuff like that. And I told her I wanted to make it work. And she was like, there's no way we are ever getting back together. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I just don't see a point being here anymore. And then I just went like dark. Like I just went silent, which really scared her. And so she started like messaging my family, and she was worried. And so that's kind of how it came about. And I was actually getting lots of messages at the time and wasn't really responding to anyone at all. And I pretty much had my mind made up. And my brother, I just call him my brother. I've known him since I was like 6. I grew up with all sisters. And so he came into I always wanted a brother. He came into my life when I was like 6 years old, and I just always considered him my brother. And he shot me a message, and it just popped up like essentially just kind of at the right time. And it was just like, you're being selfish. You're in a selfish mindset right now. And I feel like a lot of people are sometimes surprised to hear that, because typically if someone is like about ready to jump off a bridge or something, people would come up and like, hey, you're being selfish. Like, don't do that. Like, that's not usually like the verbiage that is used to get people to not do something like that. But for some reason, that was just what I needed to hear at that time specifically. And so it hit me really hard, and I thought about it, and I was like, I am being selfish. I was like, my kids do need me in this world. And whether or not I feel like it right now, someone either now or in my life or later will need me eventually. And so, yeah, I decided not to do it.
Did he know what you were doing at that moment? Or was he commenting more on your general pattern of behavior going, in the sort of immediate vicinity?
I don't think he knew exactly what I was planning on doing. No one knew that I don't think anyone knew that I had my gun. No one knew that I had written a suicide note. I don't think anyone was aware of any of that going on, but they just knew that I think he knew I was in a really bad headspace and that I was having thoughts of not wanting to kind of live anymore. But I don't think anyone knew the extent of kind of the situation that I was in.
And what's your conversation with him been like since then? Obviously he knows kind of how pivotal of a role that played. What have your conversations been like since then?
Surprisingly, we honestly haven't had too many conversations about it since then. Very, very briefly. And I think he fully realized the impact it had on me when I came out with this video. Me and the other two founders did some videos based on our stories. I don't know if you've seen them on our app or not.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah, so mine, I go pretty in depth about my story, and in there I talk about the text message and almost taking my life. And he saw that video I posted it on Instagram, and he saw it, and he messaged me, and he's like, I was just in tears. He's like, I didn't realize, it was to that extent. And that was kind of the moment I think he really fully realized what was taking place at that time and what it meant. And yeah, aside from that, it's, me and him have had kind of a complicated relationship. We were very close for a time, and then we kind of drifted apart a little bit. And, he's very busy. He's a very busy man now, and with his work and family and everything. But anyways, yeah, it's been, we haven't really had any super in-depth conversations about that specific moment since then. So,
a lot of our audience, struggles with mental health, struggles with anxiety, not to the extent maybe that you have, but are always seeking, how to find purpose and find meaning, mainly through work. We talk a lot about that, but where we go when I'm coaching somebody, where we go is we try to go backwards and understand what somebody is missing or running from with those feelings. And I'm just curious, you obviously got to a very bad place and rock bottom place. What were you sort of missing? If you were to go backwards in your life, what was missing that maybe led to that place of despair?
What was missing was I was attaching my happiness and self-worth to certain things, and which is what a lot of people do, which is what everyone does all the time, is you see that happen where someone attaches their self-worth to their job or their family or the girl they're dating or the guy they're dating or whoever it is. We all have these things that we attach happiness to, whether it's like good happiness or kind of bad happiness, I guess. I think there's kind of both forms of happiness. And I was at the time experiencing a lot of really short-term, ineffective moments of happiness that were not progressing me in any way forward at all in my life. Most of the relationships I had while I was separated were not good. I was surrounding myself by people who were not the best influences in my life, most of them. And I was drinking, I was doing drugs, I was on social media all the time. And that was really the moment where I hit rock bottom, was where I don't know why, but I kind of just decided to take everything out of my life. I was like, I wonder how happy I am when I don't have all these external things making me happy. So I was like, I'm going to delete all these girls' numbers on my phone. I'm going to delete my social media. I completely deleted my Facebook and Instagram. And I had like Tinder and stuff, and I deleted everything I had. I dumped the drugs and alcohol down the drain. I just got rid of everything. I stopped watching TV, and I just sat there in loneliness and silence and was like, geez, I am just really unhappy. I was so unhappy with being with myself, in my thoughts and alone. And when I didn't have anything to make me that, to bring me up to that level, I just didn't want to live anymore. And Yeah, I get asked by a lot of guys. A lot of guys come to me when they hear my story, and one of the first questions they ask, if they're married or whatever, is they're like, "How do I get my family back? Like, what do I do to get my wife back or my kids back?" And I'm like, "You're asking yourself the wrong question." I was like, "What you need to be asking yourself is, how do I get myself in a position where I'm going to be okay regardless of what happens around me and what my outward circumstances are? Because nothing in this life is ever sure. Like, nothing is essentially rock solid, almost never." Um, and so, yeah, I was living in a very earthly mindset, and I grew up fairly religious, and I grew up believing in God, and then I went away from that for a very long time. And so, coming back to the mindset of having like an eternal perspective on life and kind of where I was headed, and what choices I was making on earth that were going to lead to what was going to happen to me after this life, really started to shift my mindset a lot on how I lived my life. Sorry, that was a really long answer to that question.
No, that's completely all right. That is why we are here, is to have these conversations. The nugget in there, I feel like the lesson for other people to take from this conversation, or from this particular point of the conversation, I think, is one where we so often attach our happiness to something else, just like you said, right? I'm going to be happy if I get this promotion, or only if this works, only if I make X amount of money. The guys that are coming to you about your story are saying, I think I will get happy if I get my family back, and how do I do that? And you're kind of coming here and saying that eternal perspective, that long-term perspective, is how do you be okay no matter what? And I think that is something that's where purpose, to me, comes in. Like we talk about in the context of career change and happiness, how do you do something that really aligns with your purpose and that you could do for the rest of your life? And I think you're kind of bringing that same mentality to this. Like, from your standpoint, it feels like the reality is, I don't control if I get my family back. I can't make the decision for my wife, but how do I get into a spot where the odds of that happening are better than they were? And no matter what the outcome, I can be okay. Is that how you kind of see that?
Yeah, exactly. And also knowing that, like, I needed to be a better person for, especially for my kids. Like, I was like, regardless of if, not everyone has kids, obviously, but for me at the time, that was kind of my purpose. I was like, I want to be a father that my boy, at the time I had two boys and I have a girl, but I want to be the type of father that my boys look up to, regardless. And so that was my big soul, like, purpose at the time. But my other, like, thing was, I just wanted to be happy. Like, I didn't want anything in my life that was just, like, what can I do to get, like, some dopamine today? What can I do to, like, feel temporary happy for a little bit? And that's why most people, turn to, these, like, vices that we have, like drugs or alcohol. And I'm not saying that everyone who drinks alcohol is bad or whatever. But yeah, having that purpose is extremely important, and having kind of like a long-term outlook on life, I think, but also still living in the present moments as well.
So before you really got into kind of the drugs and alcohol and the period, I guess, immediately preceding the suicide attempt, I mean, you were married, you had kids, you kind of on the outside, things looked great, right? I mean, you had a good family unit, but what did you learn about yourself maybe in that period, even before then, that led you down that road? What were you missing? Like, what were you seeking? Was it that idea that just it was hard to sit with yourself, or what was that like? Like before, so you were married, you had two kids. Before you had the suicide attempt, you went down, you were going down some path of not being happy. Were you able to pinpoint what you were sort of running from or not happy with, even though you had this external world, wife, kids, that from the outside, everything looks great?
Well, I mean, going back to what my brother-in-law texted me, is I was in a very selfish mindset. Even at the time when I was married, I was constantly thinking about myself. And me and my wife were actually separated twice. And I had really been in that mindset for a long time, where I was so focused on my needs rather than those others around me. And that led me to making a lot of really poor decisions in my life. Like I was unfaithful to my wife more than one occasion, which led to our first separation and then our second separation. And the really sad thing is that when my wife did kick me out and like slapped me and told me to get out of the house, I was in such a dark and selfish mindset at that time. I didn't even care at all. Like I wasn't even sad. I didn't cry. When I left the house, I wasn't thinking about my kids. Like, what were they going to think when they woke up and I wasn't there? None of that crossed my mind. What was going through my mind at that time was pure selfishness, and just like, okay, well, like now what do I do? Like it's almost kind of like that shark mentality where it's like, oh, there's no food here. Like this didn't work out. Now I'm going to go swim over here and attack this. And I'm like, it's just like this like tunnel vision, which is exactly what I had. Like I was just like unfazed by anyone else around me and the actions I was making and how it was affecting them. And it really didn't hit me hard until me and my wife were cleaning up our place. We were renting a basement apartment at the time, and we were there, and I started like throwing away pictures and bags of my family. And then like I was like in hearing my wife cry in the bedroom down the hallway. We had this journal that we wrote in for years. It was like a love journal where we would write back and forth to each other. That went in the trash. And that was the first moment where I was like, oh shit. I was like, what did I do? I was like, even though at the time I still wasn't in the mind frame of like wanting to get back together, but that was the first initial point where I was like sad about what was happening, which was like several weeks after it even happened. And so it's the scary thing is kind of how quickly all that can happen to someone and how quickly people can get in that really dark and selfish mindset, because it happened to, even though it took years to kind of eventually get to that point. When everything spiraled, I mean, it spiraled fast, like really, really fast. And
you mentioned, attaching your happiness to other things. You talked about the drugs and alcohol and things like that, but I'm curious, and I feel like I'm being a bad host and I'm not getting to what I'm trying to get at. But but going from this love journal to that point where you're in a very selfish frame of mind and very dark. What was pushing you down that path? Does that make sense? The question I'm trying to ask?
Well, yeah, I think what overall was pushing me was just my selfish mindset. I mean, I didn't care about anyone else but myself at the time. I don't know, maybe that's not answering your question, right?
No, that's fine.
That's not the answer you're looking for.
Okay, I'm going to try one more time. It seems to me that you didn't always have this selfish mindset in your life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, I'm interested in how that started manifesting and what you were maybe afraid of or running from or didn't like about yourself, and how that manifested, in that path, down into that path.
So what led me to becoming a selfish person?
Yeah.
Gee, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever thought that far back. It really led to, I feel like this has been coming up a lot, where it goes into like childhood trauma. Where, have you heard the fact that like everyone experiences some sort of childhood trauma in their life?
Yeah.
Um, and when me and my wife were getting back together, I went to therapy, and I was never expecting to like go back that, because I grew up in an amazing home. Like I grew up with amazing parents. But through therapy, I realized there was this point where I really like sought after validation, like a lot. Cause I was the only boy. And for some reason, I just felt like I was never really getting that validation that I wanted when I was little, which led to me really craving validation as I got older. And when I received validation from others, and this is why a lot of people, I'm very into working out and I'm very into lifting and stuff like that. But it's funny because the gym and lifting and exercising and all that stuff has had both very terrible, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's been a very terrible influence on my life, and it's been a very good influence on my life. Something that's like working out, because the gym, I became obsessed with how, because I started to get attention. Like I started to lift and I started to look good. And then girls would look at me in the gym or they'd come talk to me. And I just like loved that so much. And like, I started to like crave it to an unhealthy point, because it was filling this void in my life that I guess I experienced kind of at a young age, even though I grew up in a very loving and caring home. And so if I really break it down and go back, I mean, that's what originally started leading me to becoming a selfish individual, was that crave and that need for validation. Because, you know, marriage is difficult. Like it's very hard. I think no one who's been married is like, oh, this is just so easy, right? Marriage is like a full-time job, and it's so easy to let things slip, and it's so easy to let the little things that are important like not happen on a daily basis. And so I don't know, I just started to really get lost in that headspace of like wanting that validation. Like it got to the point where I was just not wanting to be a dad. I was not wanting, like I convinced myself that I wasn't supposed to be like a family man. I convinced myself I wasn't supposed to be a husband. Like after my wife and I separated, I was like, I'm never getting married again. I'm never having kids again. Even though I loved my kids like a lot, I just felt like I wasn't the type of person to be a father. And I convinced myself of that, which I feel like made that initial transition where I was just so like glazed over, where I was just like, well, you know, this is my life now. And I was at the moment I thought I was okay with that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that got to the to the answer you wanted.
I think so. It was more about the motive, or what was the driver that led to that path? Because I think we all get down certain roads, and our habits kick in, right? Like we start to go after the carrot and the stick, right? And that was your story, going back to your childhood. And I think what I'm trying to do with bringing that to light is help people think about how, like what is driving them to do certain things, and become more conscious of those automatic behaviors quicker, so we don't get to that point. So Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you sticking with me with the line of questioning.
I'm not giving him the answer. Well, it's all like notion of like the grass is green on the other side. Like we think that all the time. Like the grass, like if you're not happy in your marriage, if you're not, you know, struggling being a good father or providing for your family, or you're not making enough, like you always say the grass is green on the other side, and it's not. The grass is never, ever green on the other side. The grass is greener where you decide to water it. Like that's where the grass is greenest. And like you get to decide, you get to make the choice of where that grass is the greenest. And it's never like going to go find it somewhere else. Like it's staying in your current circumstance and making the choice to make your circumstances, you know, the outcome that you want.
I love that. It's the shiny object syndrome, right? The grass is greener, shiny object syndrome. Oh, if I'm going to be happy if I just go do that or that or that. And then our focus is completely divided, and we don't realize that, well, we get to create it. And the way that we create it is by really getting in touch with purpose and back in touch with, you know, what really does matter, which you thankfully did. And you have a insanely strong wife who processed all of this with you. And you're in a very good place with your family and personally.
Yeah, we are. And a really good example of like chasing the carrot or the shiny object or the grass is green or whatever. One of the perfect scenarios just happened to me recently where I was laid off from my job.
Right.
And I was making decent money. And like everyone values money at a very, like this is where I'll be happy if I'm making 6 figures, or then if I'm making 200K or 300, it's like goes up and up and up. And I got laid off from my job, which I wasn't expecting, but at the time we were doing here. And then instead of looking for another job, I just decided to go all in on here. And ever since I did that a couple months ago, even though I'm not making any money and we're just living off fumes right now until, we can do something with here or start, making money from it. I have been so extremely happy, happier than I've ever been or was making a decent amount of money. But yeah. So anyways, that's something also that's been a cool realization.
Yeah. Sometimes we need those backs to the wall, burn the boats moments.
You're listening to the Break Podcast powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you.
Let's go to here, because that seems to be, at least from what I know of you, really how you have created your purpose going forward here, at least from a business standpoint and who you serve with here. So after the suicide attempt, talk to us about what was the timeline in terms of creating here, and what was the origin story of that?
Well, I always tell John or one of my partners, I'm like, this always, or anyone, I'm just like, this always came about on accident. Like it really did. Like, and here has totally formed out of 100% purpose. It never started out as like, how are we going to make money? Like, how are we, like I've tried starting a few other businesses in the past and all of them have not worked out clearly. And it's funny because with all those businesses, I started out with the first mindset of like, how do I make a profit by doing this? And here started in the completely different outlook. But going back to after I almost took my life, I decided to finish my degree. So I went back to school, finished my degree in digital marketing, and I was already working in the field at the time, running ads as a freelancer. And so I did that, and I made that a pretty successful career over the next 2 years. And really enjoyed it. I loved marketing. Specifically, I was running like ads and doing branding strategy and creative strategy, and really loved it. And honestly felt like, that was kind of my purpose, and that was going to be my path for a long time. And then this year came around, 2023, and I started telling my story a little bit kind of on LinkedIn. I started posting. Well, going back to 2022 in December, I started posting on LinkedIn like a little bit more. And I used to post stuff that was like how to get like a good ROAS for your company, or how to I started like posting, and like no one gave a crap about any of that stuff that I posted. And so like one day in December, I decided to throw a post that was super random. And it was a picture of my wife reading scriptures to my kids in the morning. And I wrote about how I loved that she did that and how I respected and just admired her for doing that with her kids every morning when that was super chaotic. And that post like blew up. It was my first post that blew up, and it was nothing about business. It was like totally personal and like whatever. And it just did so. And I don't know if it was because my wife had dreads in the picture or like what it was, but it just blew up. And after that, I got so many connections. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this is really cool. And I love connecting with people. I love talking to people. So after that, I just started posting like pretty much every day, but I wasn't posting stuff about marketing advice. or branding or anything like that. I was just posting like personal stuff that I didn't really see being posted too much on LinkedIn. And that led me to talking more about like wanting a brotherhood, wanting community, and the importance of that. And at the time, I wasn't thinking anything about here or business related at all. And Don Moore, my partner, he hit me up in January and he was like, "Do you want to go to lunch?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so we went to lunch and I'm sure you've had moments where you've like met someone and you just like connected, like almost instantly. Like even just seeing them, you were just like, there's a connection here. Like we hit it off so well. Even though me and John are completely different people, we are just so polar opposites of each other. And on anyone who can see us or can hear us talk together or whatever, like they can say that that's true. But we had lunch and we had a very emotional lunch. He was one of the first people I told openly about my experience of almost taking my life and everything that I went through. We were in like tears at lunch. It was like the first time I've ever cried like in a public restaurant with another man. And we just had a really cool experience. And after that, he's like, "I want to start an apparel company that brings awareness to men's mental health." He's like, "That's all." He's just an idea. He's like, "I just want to bring more awareness to men's mental health." And he's like, "Do you want to partner with me on it?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And at the time, I was in the process of actually starting my own agency, and I put in a decent amount of money into it, and I just dropped it. Like I just felt so strongly about starting something to bring awareness to men's mental health, because the suicide stats in men are just outrageous. That they're 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. They make up 80% of the suicides, and it just keeps getting worse and worse year after year. And I was like, just something needs to be done about this. And I really wanted to, my main goal was to just help men not feel lonely and to not feel alone in the struggles and trials that they were going through. After that, I started posting more vulnerable stuff. I started posting a lot more about men's mental health and started really getting into that. And then I started really opening up about my story on a very personal and like vulnerable level that I've never shared before publicly. And it was really kind of scary at first because I was like, I don't know how people are going to react when I tell them that I was like this essentially terrible person. Like I was a terrible father and terrible husband, and I was unfaithful to my wife, and I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I was like, and I just went for it. And I can honestly say, since I've done that and shared that story numerous times, I have never, ever, not one time gotten someone to message me and be like, "You're a terrible person. Like, how dare you share that?" Like, ever. Like, I've gotten a few comments that are like, "This isn't Facebook, man. Like, don't post this on." Yeah. I've gotten a few things like that. But the support has been absolutely incredible. And so we officially launched here May, and it originally started out as an apparel brand. Like that was the original idea behind it, was just creating apparel. And our original idea, which is kind of crazy now thinking about it, what we were going to donate 50% of profits received to like help bring awareness to mental health. And that was kind of the original idea. And then we launched it, and we just got so much traction. And the company was called Here Brotherhood. And when we launched it, so many people were messaging us, and they were like, "How do I join the Brotherhood? How do I join the community?" And we're like, "I don't know." We're like, "We don't really have."
We sell shirts, dude.
Yeah, we're like, we didn't really think about like I was like, is there not already like something here? Like, is there not a community somewhere? And we started to like look into it. And we're like, we need some sort of space for men to come. And we're like, more than a space though, is we need like a safe space for men to come and feel like they can come and share and relate to each other, and really a space to not feel so alone in this world with the trials we're going through. Because one of the things that shocked me when I went about my story is how many men that were complete strangers to me opened up to me about very intimate and personal things in their life that they have never shared with their wife or their family or anyone like this. They shared it with someone who had been through something similar and who they felt like they could trust. Mm-hmm. And that's when we realized we're like, men need a space like this. And so we also started doing men's retreats, and that's where Mike Allen came in, our other founder. And he was just hosting incredible men's retreats where I had one of the most spiritual experiences of my life doing breath work for the first time. And we're like, we wanted to create an environment like kind of his retreats, but on a digital and global scale. The only issue we found with those in-person retreats, not really issue, but the thing that we found was that you become very close to this group of men in the span of like 24 hours. Like all of a sudden you're crying together, you're doing breath work together, you're sharing things that you've never shared an opening of about all these things. But then after that, you all leave and you go back to your normal lives. And it was like, shoot, it was like, how do we keep this going? Like, how do we like keep guys doing this on a daily basis? And so we came up with our app, and we still do men's retreats as well and we still do events because that in-person physical component is just, it's where those really powerful bonds happen and really like cool lasting relationships. And so we came up with the app where we wanted to kind of create that digitally on a global scale. And then we came up with our mission, which is our official mission for here is to forge a global brotherhood of support and growth. And at the time we wrote that, our app actually wasn't even officially global. And we debated on making that our official mission. But then a week after that, our app officially went global. Most people who are very active are within the United States, but we do officially have people on every single continent. And so that was a huge accomplishment. And now we have our own standalone app, as you know, that's in like the iOS and Google Play stores. And it's just been growing. And we have almost 10,000 people now who have signed our Here Brotherhood Oath on our website. And that's been incredibly cool. Like kind of the whole foundation of Here has been centered around that oath that we kind of require everyone to take before they are a part of our community. And the night I wrote that oath was actually also probably one of the most spiritual experiences of my life as well.
That's kind of where I wanted to go next. So I believe you have that tattooed on your forearm. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if
the whole oath.
If people see the video, but it's on my arm.
So I'm gonna read it quick. I have it here. Can I read it? And then I would love you to tell us about the night that you wrote this.
Yeah, for sure.
So this gives people a little bit of context into what this brotherhood really means. So it goes, I vow to be my brother's keeper, a silent, watchful guardian over those in darkness, a listening ear to those in pain, a provider for those in need, a leader to those lost, and a hand to hold those in deep waters. I am a son, father, and brother to those who need me. I will uphold the duties and responsibilities bestowed upon me. Through any obstacle or trial, I will be there for my brothers in need. I will leave no man behind in the darkness or to be left alone or afraid. Our love and dedication goes beyond color, belief, culture, status, nationality, and blood. We cannot and will not be divided. In my time of need, I will reach out. I will talk. I will remember those who need and love me. I will remember that I am loved. I will never forget my brothers who are there for me. I am here to hear. This is my promise. This is my responsibility, my oath. This is my Here brotherhood. So talk to us a little bit about the night that you wrote this.
Yeah. And so me and John had very solemnly talked about having some sort of like oath or terms of service or like we kind of very briefly talked about it and we're like, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. And then I can't remember exactly how long it was before we launched. I want to say like a month or so before we launched Here. We kind of stopped talking about it and didn't really go back to it at all. And I woke up one night, like in the middle of the night, and I was just in tears. Like it's never happened to me in my life. Like I just woke up like bawling and I was like, what in the hell is happening to me right now? And I started to have this experience that I've never had before, which maybe sounds easy to some people, but I started to feel like very connected to a very specific individual who I didn't know who it was, but it's like I could feel like a father who was just stressing and feeling alone about, finances and being a provider. And it's like I just could feel the pain coming from this individual. And it was so strong and so apparent that I was just crying because I just felt for this person. And I was like, this is so strange. And so I went downstairs and I said a prayer and I was like, what's happening to me? I was like, what's going on? I don't remember the exact words I said, but after I said the prayer, I just had such this strong impression that's like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, this is your purpose. This is your mission in life, is through the trials and the dark times and the lonely times that you've been through, you are going to help others through their trials and help them through the experiences that you've been through. And I just felt so strongly about that. And then I went upstairs and I tried going back to sleep. And everyone has kind of experienced this where you're trying to sleep, but you like are thinking about something, you're having words in your head, and you're just like, man, I can't sleep. You're like, I can't stop thinking about it. So I had all these words coming in my head, and I was like, I'm just going to write them down, because sometimes that helps, just to like write your thoughts down and then put it away and then go to bed. And so I got out my phone and I got out the notes on my iPhone, and I just started like typing, like just like verbatim what was going through my head at the time. And I pretty much didn't stop. Like I just started typing and then went all the way through it. And after I was done, it didn't hit me. And I was like, man, I feel like this is like the oath, like for this company. I was like, I feel like this is what like people need to abide by and sign in order to be part of our community. And so I sent it to my partner, John, super late. And I was like, I think I just wrote the oath. I was like, I don't know. And so I sent it to him and I went to bed. And then he woke up and he was just like, he like loved it. And that he always says that he actually thought, he said that he was mad at first because he thought that I like wrote it with ChatGPT or something. But then he realized for those who don't know, I'm like a terrible speller, and like I'm always making like grammatical mistakes all the time. And it's just an issue I guess I've had my whole life. But he started to realize there were all these like spelling errors in the oath. And he was like, well, he's like, obviously this was Justin, because it wasn't written by like a robot, or it wouldn't have all these errors. And so he just made like some grammatical changes to it. And that's it. That's our oath today. That's on our website and on our app.
And on my shirts. And on our shirts.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yep.
I got one on right here. For those watching video, this is some of the merch, and I'm in the Brotherhood, which has been amazing. What was your other partner's name? Is John? Is that correct? Is that right? John?
Yeah, John Moore.
What is right? What was his motivation for doing something in men's mental health?
He had his own kind of mental health struggles a little bit, not to the extent of myself, but his main motive was he had a few friends that took their lives that hit him and had a major effect on him. One of the people he even thought about one night, like he thought he had this impression to like reach out to a friend and that he hadn't talked to forever, and he didn't. And they ended up taking their life, I believe. And so that had a really huge impact on him for a long time. And he was just really tired of seeing his friends. And one thing he realized was it was people who appeared to have like this really happy, perfect life. Yeah. Like a lot of the people that were taking their lives. And I don't know if you remember, do you remember Twitch, like the dancer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he took his life, and that took everyone by surprise. It was like, this guy has all the money in the world. He has a beautiful wife, beautiful family. And it just came out of nowhere that he took his life. And it was like, that just really hit John. And John's like, man, something like needs to be done here. Like, because we have a men's mental health month that started in the 90s that clearly doesn't do anything. We have like a mental health month or suicide, or like all these things. Like they're good, but they're not causing any change. Like suicide statistics are just getting worse and worse and worse, and people's mental health is getting worse and worse and worse. And so it's just like we both knew something needed to be done.
What have you learned about men's mental health? The drivers behind it. So we hear this word loneliness all the time. Men feel alone. And particularly, as you described, even men that have very good family lives and seem like they have really good support systems. What's going on there?
Like the reason they're not talking about it?
Yeah. Is that what it is? Or the feeling of loneliness, I guess, being alone?
Well, it comes from not opening up and not sharing, because there's so much power in opening up about an issue you're having, and all of a sudden realizing 1,000 other people are having that same issue. Like all of a sudden, even if you're struggling and you're going through some sort of trial, if you know that you're not the only one going through that and others are experiencing it, it helps so much. And there's this whole stigma around men not wanting to open up, that men are like enclosed and we don't want to share. And that's not true at all. Like that whole stigma is complete BS because I see it happen every day. Men, they just want a safe space to do it. And once you give men a safe space to open up and to be vulnerable, they will do it most of the time. And even on our app, we have a space that's probably our most popular space actually, which is called Anonymous Questions. And I'm sure you've seen that. And even men who still are not quite comfortable asking certain questions on the app, we have that space, which has been really, really cool. And there's actually even been a few I don't know if you saw the one where this one guy opened up because he was gay and he was feeling like he maybe wasn't super welcome in the community. Did you see that one at all?
I did not see that one. I've seen a few others and I've responded to a couple, but I did not see that one.
Yeah. So this one was super, they're all cool, but this one was like, I was crying because this guy sent in an anonymous question and we don't even know who they are, like when people submit them. And I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was just like, I'm gay and I feel like this community is like, you know, I feel kind of like I don't belong here, something to that regard. And he sent it and I posted it. And I think it has more comments than any of our other ones. And it was just full of love and support for that man. And he eventually came out in the comments and he was like, I'm the one who wrote this. He's like, I just feel so much love and support. He's like, I just wanted to say thank you and like tell you guys that it was me who submitted this. And it was just such a cool moment. And that's happened a couple times, but yeah, I feel like guys want to open up, but a lot of times they don't feel like they can in front of their wives because either they don't want to put the stresses on their wives or their families, or they feel like maybe they'll be looked at a certain way. And one thing I found with people not wanting to open up to their families is that a lot of times our families love us, but even our parents, they always view us as like the little kid a lot of times.
Yeah,
you know, and so
for sure.
When you approach them with certain issues or struggles you're going through, a lot of times it's not taken as seriously or kind of looked at in the way that a lot of people want it to be looked at or supported in. Yeah.
And it's funny, even like you hear I don't know what the statistics are, but people even, lying to their therapists because that they don't like, it's particularly men, like you don't even think that is necessarily a safe space. But the idea that the elements of a safe space for men seem to be, at least what you're onto is, a forum where people can talk, share like experiences with people who have gone through those same issues seems to be like very appealing to men. I mean, I'll be real honest. Like I don't tell my family stuff I struggle with because I don't want to burden them, or I feel like it might scare the shit out of them.
Yeah, exactly. Or they don't fully. Do you know Levi Lindsay at all on LinkedIn?
I do not know.
He was one of the big influences for me on LinkedIn. He shared about his struggles with almost taking his own life, and I had the opportunity to go to lunch with him a few months ago, and he opened up about the night that he was going to do that. And I don't know if he wants us super public, but he was talking to his wife about kind of struggling, and it was just like it wasn't being understood in the way that he thought it was going to be understood. And I feel like that happens to so many of us, where it's like we're just sometimes it's not necessarily our fault or our wife's fault, but it's like we're just sometimes not able to convey it in a way that like we want people to like people don't react the way sometimes we want them to react, and especially with our spouses. And it doesn't mean that like they don't love us or anything like that. But men, there's this need, like men need a community. Like we have it when we're little. Like we hang out with our friends, we go toilet papering, we have sleepover. Well, people don't have sleepovers very much anymore, but we have this like little bond when we're younger with, our group of friends, or at least most people do, that we play sports with or whatever we do. And then all of a sudden you grow up and your friends start to get like smaller and smaller. And then you get married and then your friends get smaller. And then you have kids and it's like, it gets even smaller. And then sometimes you just have like this very small group of people. And it's like men just, they need like a brotherhood. Everyone does, but they need like a tribe and community where they feel like they belong, like that they feel like they're a part of it and they're contributing, but they're also receiving support at the same time. And we all need that. Everyone needs that to I think live like a happy and fulfilling life, to feel a part of something.
I would 100% agree with that. And I think even with when you do have a good friend group or a social group amongst men, let's say it's in a a church or it's in a club or because you have your kids go to the same school and you have, quote unquote friends, not everyone in that friend group as a male is open or receptive to talking about the things that you feel like you want to talk about. And that's an element that's an outlet that's not there for guys either, which means, okay, we need a dedicated space. And that's what you seem to really be providing here with Brotherhood, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we try to say. It's a safe space, and it's for, we've tried to like rebrand a little bit and not so much be like, we're here to help with mental health. Cause then a lot of people think that we're like a suicide hotline or something. And we're definitely not that at all. Like there's not therapists, there's not doctors, like there's none of that happening on our app. It is like a social media wellness app, which sounds weird because we associate social media with not good things, but
right.
I mean, I get hit up probably at least 2 or 3 times a week by guys who have said that this app literally saved their life. And it's, and the purpose of the app is, the sole purpose is not to just help people not, kill themselves, but just hearing that is like incredibly rewarding. And it's really cool to see that happening.
Yeah. I think I would say that there's guys like me too, that I've really never shared anything about anything to do with mental health or any struggles that I've had, and shared it all. But seeing that this is happening, I'm able to lean in a step in the right direction, right? To be there and help support people, and if and when the time is right, share some of those things. So I think there's that very core need, and people in need right at the moment that you're helping, all the way through just people on the fringes, and that's all going in the right direction. So I really, I think it's amazing the work that you guys are doing.
Thanks. It's been really cool. It's definitely been a learning experience to kind of navigate certain things that happen on the app or certain spaces we have. But overall, it's been a really cool experience. And we're, the goal with here is we really love our in-person events and we love our retreats. And our goal is to eventually to be spreading those physical, more intimate moments like across the country and eventually the world. Because right now they're mostly just happening in a few states. But we love having those. We're mainly based in Utah, but we've had like hikes and cold plunges here, and like it's just those experiences are just really, really cool. To have those in-person interactions as well, and we want to definitely be, having those more across the country soon, hopefully.
You're listening to the Break Podcast, powered by Career Cloud.
This episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. If you need a change and are looking for a new job, or if you're looking to hire for your small business, please check out ZipRecruiter today. Their smart technology matches the right candidates to the right jobs and sends new opportunities right to your inbox. They make finding a job or hiring the right person easier than ever. ZipRecruiter, the smarter way to hire. Try ZipRecruiter for free today by going to ZipRecruiter.com and tell them I sent you.
So I got a few questions from brothers in the group that I want to quick get to. One of the questions is, what we kind of covered, what was your impetus for starting this? And I think we covered that pretty well. What has the response been like? We kind of covered that, I feel like. Also, is there anything else that you want to share on that front? That was a question from the Brotherhood.
What has the response been for what?
What has the response been like from the community, from media, from people at large about this? It seems like we covered that pretty good, but I'm wondering, is there anything else that you wanted to mention for that question?
No, the response has been really good. Surprisingly, we have gotten a few people that are like iffy about the oath, because like we joke about it sometimes, where it's like, this kind of feels like a bit like cultish, like where it's like you're like a brotherhood and you have people signing like an oath, and every time someone brings up anything like that, I'm like, go read our oath. I'm like, because frankly, if someone reads our oath and they don't agree with it, it's like, I don't want you to be a part of our community. Like if you're not okay with everything on that, and we've been counseled by some people to be like, you guys need to make the oath a little bit shorter. And we read it and we're just like, no, we're never going to do that.
Yeah.
Like every single word and sentence and paragraph in there, like, is significant, and there's nothing that we can take away from it. I don't feel like, and we can't, because now it's tattooed on my arm. So
that's exactly right.
But
no going back on that one.
Yeah.
And you alluded to this a little bit in terms of where you want to go with the in-person meetups and the retreats and stuff like that. But what's next? What's right in the immediate future for the Here Brotherhood? Is there something that you guys are trying to release or figure out?
Yeah, we have a few things coming up. So the huge goal is to eventually, like, so far we've grown this 100% organically, pretty much solely through LinkedIn, which has been really incredible. But we really want to light fire under that. Like, right. I mean, just to be totally honest, we're trying to get funding right now for the company. You know,
right.
we're trying to fundraise for it, because we see such a huge need for this, and we've put in quite a bit of money of our own money into it so far. And it's like, we're to a point where we just want to grow like crazy. And we're finally, we wanted to first build a really good foundation before we did that. And I feel like we've done that now. And so that's a huge goal, is to, you know, eventually get funding to really blow this up. You know, my experience is running ads. So, you know, we want to be running ads all over the country. We want to be building out this brotherhood in multiple states. We want to be having events in every single state and retreats happening in every single state. You know, eventually I want to get to a point where someone is not in a position where it's like, oh, like I'm nowhere near an event, or I'm nowhere near a retreat. And obviously that's probably a ways down, but we've already held events in 5 different states, and we've only been around for 6 months. So that is cool. And we have people flying into our retreat at Zion's here, which is incredible. Like I never thought, like, we almost have 40 guys coming to this retreat in Zion's, and it's super cool. Some other big things, though, is this next year is we want to expand eventually, probably next year, and start doing something for women and teenagers as well. So that's another big thing that we want to be starting to look at more, is we want to create spaces like this for women and teens. So
excellent.
That's another big portion.
Or this is another question from the Brotherhood for people who are men who are especially who are struggling with mental health. What are maybe 3 things that have helped you the most in your journey with mental health?
One of the big things, and like we never wanted to brand ourselves as like a religious brand at all, but we're also not shy about our own beliefs. So one of the big things for me was getting God back in my life, like just being honest, like getting God back in my life and being able to see myself through His eyes. That was the only way I was able to get to a point of loving myself. Was I was praying every day and being like, God, please help me see myself through your eyes, because I hate myself. Almost everyone I know in my life hates me. And so that was a huge thing for me. Another portion is grounding myself and putting myself in positions and moments where I'm fully present. And that's why a lot of the events and stuff we do are centered around that. And like, I don't know if you've seen our holy, we kind of call it our holy ground symbol. It's actually on your shirt. We like kind of hit it on the shirt, but it's like a square with a circle in the middle. It's very small, but it is on there somewhere.
Oh, yep. It's right in the middle here. Yep.
Yeah.
I see it. Yeah.
And so that symbol we're calling it kind of like our holy ground symbol, and we're going to be incorporating it more in the future. But it's a symbol of like, it has lots of meanings, but one of the big meanings is like being present and grounded. And so I've really been working on that a lot, especially recently with my family, and just trying to be a lot more present, putting my phone down, but not only putting my phone down, but also like being there. But yeah, a lot of our events are centered around that, like doing breath work and things like that. And another component is service. I think that service brings more joy than anything else in our lives. That was how I got out of the deep hole that I was in. Was I started serving. I started after I almost took my life, and I took my brother-in-law's advice, and I played the guitar. So I went and I started calling old folks' homes to see if I could play for their seniors there. And surprisingly, I got a lot of no's when I was doing that. Like I was really shocked. It took like 10 old folks homes until I finally found one that would let me come. I was like, I'll never forget that. I was so surprised by people being like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think we're going to let you come and play. And so I did that. I started playing for old, at an old folks home. And that was really cool. That brought so much joy and happiness into my life. And so serving, and that's something we put a lot of emphasis on, and showing gratitude. That was 4, but showing gratitude is also big, even when it seems like there's nothing to be grateful for.
Got to ask about some of the whys with the rejections. So what were some of the reasons why they wouldn't let you play? Did this have anything to do with your mustache?
At the time, I didn't even have a mustache. I don't know what I had, but no one could see me. But maybe that would have actually made even the results worse if they could see me. They're like, you look like a tool or something. We don't want you. But I don't know. Like, a lot of people, they would ask if I charge. They're like, how much do you charge for this? And I was like, oh, it's free. And that for some reason was the thing where people were like, oh, like, this is weird. Like, we don't want you to come and play. I was, because I wanted to do it for free. I wanted to truly like serve and not do it for money. And so I got that question a lot from like so many of them. But then I finally hit one, and I remember immediately the lady was like so excited about it. She was just like, yes, she's like, I loved it. She was like just the most like charismatic little lady I've ever met. And yeah, she was just so excited. I was like, well, you're like the 10th person I've called. So yeah.
All right. So speaking of the mustache, I have to ask, when are you going to be debuting in the WWE?
Well, this all was for Halloween.
Okay.
I think most people know that now, but I just dyed it for, I actually have never been excited for Halloween. It's probably one of my least favorite holidays. I know a lot of people probably will hate me for that, but me and my wife we just hate being scared. Like, we're not into scary movies or horror or anything like that. And this year though is probably one of the first years I am like very excited, because one of the members on our app, he actually, I don't even know how we got in the discussion, but he was like, you should be Hulk Hogan for Halloween. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that is such an incredible idea. And I finally got really excited about Halloween. And so I went all in, and I started dyeing my mustache a couple months ago. So it had like the right color for Halloween, because I have such a dark hair. And yeah, anyways, that's the whole reason and then I dyed the back as well.
Oh yeah. Nice. No, I think it's perfect because he uses the word brother all the time too. So that's like,
I know. I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of funny.
All right. I got 2 more questions for you. So one, to close this out, in terms of, your experience, and that going back to that suicide note, you wrote it to your son, and you also recently were able to share that note with him, I believe I saw on
yeah, which is something really surprised me. I wasn't planning on doing that for a very long time.
Right. It seemed like it was something that just happened in the moment. What was that? What was his response like to that? And what did you learn from that experience of sharing that with him?
Yeah, that was actually like a really incredible experience. And it really came up in the moment. I don't remember. So we were having a really bad day in our home, and both of my boys were just being not good. My wife was like crying, like, because they were just not listening. I'm sure everyone can relate to the story.
Absolutely.
But, and I was just so furious, and it kind of, for some reason, it just kind of hit me. I don't know if it was like a spiritual thing or what, but it just hit me. And I was like, ask Beckham, like, just start talking about that whole experience. Cause I realized like I've never talked to him about like, he was 5 at the time, all that was happening, and he was little, but he still remembered everything. I've realized, like, very, like, it's very, very apparent his mind, and it's very like there. And so I asked him, I just started talking to him about it, and I was like, what was that experience like? And he was like, it was really hard. And I was like, well, why was it really hard? And I didn't know any of this. And he was like, it was really hard hearing mom cry every night. And I just started like bawling when he told me that, because me and my wife were not living together, and neither of us knew that he knew that, because my wife was in a room and then it was sharing like a vent with his room that he was sleeping in. And he said that he heard, Sarah crying every single night. And he said that it just made him sad and mad and confused. And we talked about that for the first time. And then he asked me, he was like, why weren't you as sad as mom? And then I started just bawling again. And then after that, I was like, I just had the impression, I was like, go read to him your suicide note. And I leave it in my car because I read it probably once a month or so. And I took him in my car and I just opened the glove box and I kind of explained to him, not in like great detail, but I explained to him what I was going through, and I explained to him that I was not happy and that I was very sad with the decisions I had made, and that I didn't think that I really wanted to live anymore or be here. And I read to him that suicide note, and that was so hard. I could barely get through it. I was literally just in tears. And then he even started getting emotional and started crying. And then afterwards, he just said, "I'm sorry, Dad, that you were so sad." And then we hugged, and I told him that I loved him, and that was kind of it. It was a really, really cool moment. And that I actually posted about that, and some people even hit me up and they're like, "I feel like your son was too young." And I was like, I honestly felt like he was too, but in that moment, like it felt so right. And it's been so much better since then. Like, I feel like it really has helped him a lot, like to kind of understand all of that, because it's kind of been pushed under the rug a little bit and not talked about. Not that we've been like, not that it's like a taboo topic or anything, but anyways, it was a really cool experience. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sure he is very happy that you're here, and I'm happy that you're here, and a whole bunch of other people in the Brotherhood are happy that you're here as well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here and sharing your story with us. Where can people find more about you online? I know you said you're on LinkedIn. Give us the website for the Here Brotherhood, or where they can find out more.
Yeah, LinkedIn's definitely where I'm most prominent. I also have Instagram. Me and my wife share an account, but LinkedIn is pretty much where I'm at most of the time. And it's just Justin Brey. And then our website is Here Bros, and it's spelled Heare. So it's spelled like he are. It's a combination of here, like I hear you and I'm here for you, bros. And we're actually in negotiations right now to get here.com.
Nice.
We'll see how that goes.
Excellent.
But we're trying to do that. And then the app. The app is definitely where I pretty much send everyone before. Yeah, if anyone tells me where to go, I'm like, go join the app. If you're a guy right now. And so, yeah, it's, just the Here Brotherhood app in iOS and Google Play. So go and join us. And yeah.
Excellent. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being here. We're going to have links to everything in our show notes when the episode releases. So hopefully we can get some more men into the Brotherhood. But you're doing great work, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. Thanks for giving me the platform to talk and to share and to hopefully answer your questions correctly.
You got it, man. You got it. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, man. Thanks.